In the last video, I looked at the dark aspects of Donkey Kong Country. This time though, I'll be analyzing Diddy's Conquest, a sequel that expands upon absolutely everything the original established. Grander levels, better bonus stages, and an introduction to the best character in the entire franchise. But that's not all. While the first game had few specific instances of being dark, this game as a whole has plenty with no convincing necessary. DKC was all about taking back stolen property. While the odds seemed against you at times, there was a level of optimism as you're Donkey Kong, a true hero with a lifelong buddy at your side. This time around though, Donkey Kong is kidnapped. He's gone and it's up to the sidekick and his girlfriend to take charge. What's more, you're no longer on familiar grounds. The entire game takes place on enemy territory, and the music makes this immediately obvious. While the map screen music for the last game was rather comical, this time it's sinister. You are unquestionably in treacherous land. The entire game is clearly themed this time too, with all Kremlings donning a pirate motif in every level. It calls for an epic soundtrack that in itself is more gripping, but also borders on spooky, as the other theme of this game relates to the supernatural. There's ghosts, skeletons, and what seems like plenty of inspiration from the horror genre, with 2 heart-pounding chase segments and an amusement park gone wrong. This game is overtly dark in every world. For music, Stinkerbush Symphony is often pointed to for how reflective this OST can be. It's sad, nostalgic, and a beautiful listen when traversing such difficult terrain. Furthering this trend is Forest Interlude, boasting heartfelt instruments and a perfect melding of song with creature sounds. Mining Melancholy is another track that says it already in the name. It's a complex assortment of soft piano and harsh industrial noise. I mentioned David Wise in the last video, and this time he composed all of the soundtrack for the game, and his genius is largely responsible for my deep-rooted feelings in this series. Moving on to some more specific examples of things being more serious this time around, we have the game over screen that needs mention again. While not as immediately painful to look at, if you lose all lives in DKC 2, it means imprisonment for the 2 Kongs. Captured and helpless, the camera pans down and turns a sharp shade of red to really drive home the idea that you've messed up big time as a player. Potentially responsible for those game overs are the bosses that mean business. A new skull icon with glowing red eyes forewarn the battle ahead. I mentioned the use of spirits before, but this instance isn't comical like the ghost rope. That's its real name. No, in this case, the player is tasked with a second round against the soul of the first boss Diddy and Dixie bested. And, assuming these eggs are of the creature's young and not however the eggs Yoshi throws work, its babies are fated to battle again too. Had this boss been a never-before-seen ghost enemy, there'd be much less to talk about here, but a deceased one reanimated as a hostile ghost is definitely worth discussing. Furthermore, Cleaver is most likely responsible for lots of youthful scares. It begins as a brawl pitted against a wielded sword by this flaming hand, whatever it belongs to, that soon turns sentient upon being knocked into the lava. It's presumably a possessed phantom sword and it wants your throats. When it's thankfully disposed of, the thing hideously and uncomfortably breaks apart into bones than it had been made of. The scariest enemy by far though are the Black Clobbers, making their appearance mostly in the Lost World, but also as an obstacle in the main campaign. These variants have a similar color palette to the Rock Crocs, featuring large glowing red eyes and a dark gray skin. These creatures from hell will steal entire extra life balloons from the Kongs, a chilling characteristic since these collectibles essentially act as your life force. This concept is made less horrifying with Retro Studios' interpretation of the life balloons, since they're actually used as an item to carry DK back to a level, rather than symbolizing lives themselves. Though it's still worth noting as this game was made much later and not part of the original Rare trilogy. Lesser aspects I'd like to mention before finishing off are these unused sprites resembling mourning animations for our main characters. These were most likely used for failing a bonus room than some other grim implication, but I would feel amiss in not mentioning it. But dismissing that, we finally have K. Rool, who's even more menacing than before, with his swashbuckling getup and a willingness to abuse the captured Donkey Kong, repeatedly whacking the helpless ape with his blunderbuss until payback literally hits him in the face. This captain falls from high atop Crocodile Isle directly into the shark-infested waters below. Chomping sound effects ensue, and we're left to believe that this villain has actually met his demise this time. Of course, if you collected every extra goodie in the game, you'll know he does survive for a final stand, but even after a second defeat, the player isn't rewarded a happy ending. The home for all Kremlings sinks into the sea, but K. Rool cackles into the sunset, escaping by raft to fight another day. In my opinion, it's great this game doesn't tie things up so nicely, because as a standalone, it's so in spirit with the rest of the quest. It also means that since K. Rool is live and well, there's one more video to cover on the dark aspects of this timeless trilogy. Thank you all for the continued support, and I'll see you for the final, Part 3.